Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall. You may call me Dr. Kennard, and this is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. I had so many different names I could have called this particular video. Why people hate white people here in the States. Why non-white people dislike us. But I thought with something a little bit more subtle with FYI, Black Lives Matter. All right. I don't want to make light of this woman's death. I'm going to show a picture right here of Gabby Petito's death. Gabby Petito, of course, if you've been looking at the news lately, at least here in the States, there's been a lot of coverage, a ton of coverage. Too much coverage? Yes, too much coverage of her death. You can't get away with it. You can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. And this is just an example of what kind of racist society that we're living in here, is that one attractive white girl is dead, a tragedy, but there are a pile of bodies of Black and brown women that the media just ignores, that the mainstream media ignores. And so I wanted to take some time to talk about the pile of bodies. Oh, happy Friday, by the way. Happy Friday. And this isn't just me spouting off. I have data. I have sources. The sources are in the links, everyone, right? This is the NPR story. And it's a long story. There's a wonderful graph in it that is going to support my point. And if you're, this is known. This is a known amongst the Black and brown skin communities here in the States. I believe it was the comedian Patrice O'Neill said, if he's ever going to go fishing out on a lake alone, he would strap a white baby. I know it's wrong, to his ankle, so that in case he goes missing, no one's going to care about him if he ever drowned or if he ever went missing. But if there was a white child with him, then they would at least care. That's how much. And the joke illustrates this point. And you know what? I'm just going to jump to the story right now. Tens of thousands of Black women vanish each year. This website honors their stories. Once again, this is on NPR. Let's take a look at it. What? It's not on Fox News, Andy? This particular coverage of the story isn't on Fox News? No, I doubt it is. Maybe it is. I would be surprised, but let's check it out. Our Black Girls. This is the name of the site. Let's take a look right down here. Tens of thousands of Black girls and women go missing every year. Last year, that figure was nearly 100,000. 100,000? 100,000. Yet their cases hardly ever grab national headlines. A journalist in California is doing what she can to try to change that by telling as many of their stories as she can and hopefully helping them get the justice they deserve. Our Black Girls centers the often untold story of Black girls and women who have gone missing or in some cases were found dead under mysterious circumstances. Launched by journalist and activist Erica Marie Rivers in 2018, the website is a one-woman show. Rivers spends her nights combing missing persons databases, archived news footage, old articles, and whatever other information she can find to piece together these stories. And she does all of that with her day job. I told you that there's going to be graphs, everyone, and there's going to be a graph. There's going to be an infographic here. Don't worry. Don't worry. In so many of these stories that River writes about, the victims are, quote, walking down the street, or they're just going to the store, or they'll be right back, and they just disappear, she says. It could happen to me anytime. And I know that there are lots of stories like that about girls and women who look like me. So why am I not seeing them as much as I'm seeing everything else? And then it became, why am I waiting for somebody else to pick up the banner when I'm the one who's passionate about it? So Ms. Rivers, she didn't see, not a lot of media coverage on this, everyone. And once again, this woman's death just shows you the stark difference between the coverage of when a pretty white woman gets killed or goes missing as against two black and brown skinned women. All right. I promised an infographic to illustrate the ratio, and now I'm going to deliver that. Check it. Take time with this, everyone. Black girls and women were reported missing at a disproportionate rate last year. In 2020, 268,884 girls and women were reported missing in the U.S., according to the National Crime Information Center. A third of those were reported missing were Black, far greater than their share of the overall female population. And now you can take a look here, right? You can look at the white girls and women, the share of the U.S. population of girls and women. They make up what, about maybe 75%, maybe, I don't know, I'm just spitballing that number. And they make up under 60%, maybe 58% of the share of missing girls and women. Yet you look down to Black girls and women, and the percentage that they are missing is well above. It's incredible. It's insane. It's like 33% of all girls and women missing here in the States are Black. And they only make up, what, 15% of the population or so? You can roll. I'm going to check out the chat while you get to have a chance to look at this. Good morning, Kendra. I hope you're doing well. Yes, so it is, and once again, I don't want to diminish the death of Gabby Petito, but it seems to be somewhat disproportionate. And part of me just wants to show that graphic and just want to do a stream of just that graphic, right? Part of me, but I don't think it would be very entertaining for anyone, or it would just be mind-numbing at some point just to look at the disproportionate amount of Black girls and women missing in comparison to white girls, and how we don't hear about it. We don't hear about it. And I just, and what made me think about systemic racism, everyone, this story made me think of systemic racism, of course. And then I think about our favorite conservative atheist. Who is it? Dave Silverman. And he's always talking about how there's no laws that specifically, are racist here in the States. But systemic racism is more about laws. It's about social mores, right? It's about social norms. And I would say, just by looking at this graph here, and I'm going to show it again, that this is evidence that there are social norms that are systemic racism, that show that there's a systemic racism in this country. We just don't hear about these Black girls and women. Going to check out the chat. Oh, we're covering other stories today too, by the way. Thank you. Remember Sammy Jenkins, 420 Atheist. He sent me a video yesterday about crazy stuff happening, not in all of Australia, but in a city in Australia. I'm going to show you the video of that because that's nuts, everyone. That's just nuts. But that's going to be our last story. All right. Let's go to the next one. Have we all been able to center ourselves and try to deal with these numbers? It is difficult. All right, let's do the next story. You know what? I'm going to do something funny, to tell you the truth. I realized that the reason why I always did the halftime Tommy Rub show when I was doing an hour long, when these episodes were an hour long, is because it helped my brain not to explode. So I'm going to show the video now as against to waiting till the end of the episode, because I think I need to recalibrate and recenter.
Excuse me, this dish is kind of cold. Do you think you could warm it up a little bit?
No.
Wait, what? You can't warm it up?
No.
It's kind of lukewarm.
No, you're wrong.
Well, how could I be wrong? I'm the one eating this thing.
I don't know what to tell you, sir.
It's not a big deal. You just put it in the microwave for 30 seconds.
Why would we do that?
Because it's my mouth, and my mouth wants it hot.
Yes, your mouth is incorrect.
My mouth is the judge and jury. By default, it's not incorrect.
Chef, prepare the meal as is. If you don't like it, that's something you and your mouth should work out in private.
You're complaining my complaint.
I am
You're a complaint complainer. You cannot take a complaint.
I can take it. I just cannot do anything with it.
I'm not going to be a Karen about it, okay? I'll eat it as is, but can you please bring me some salt?
Why?
Because it's not salty enough. You're wrong. You're wrong.
No. I've always been right.
And that's what this is, these little comedy bits. It's something to cleanse the palate, so to speak, right? There's a pun somewhere, some wordplay. It's something to help refresh our hearts and our minds in between these stories. That's how I feel, at least. I see that Sammy put down a super chat there. And if you're a member, if you're a supporter, I guess you can put down super chats. Thank you. That's fantastic. All right. What's the next story? Are we going to talk about cops? I have to tell you, you're not going to be surprised about this. This is the case of a police officer of guess which state? Guess which state, everyone? Guess which state was home to this particular officer of the year? And then later on, got into deep, deep trouble. If you're thinking that the state begins with the letter F and ends in Florida, you would be correct. Of course, it has to be Florida, right? Link to this story is in the description below, of course. What it takes to be Officer of the Year. So this law enforcement officer is no longer a police officer. He has been recently charged for a crime. And of course, before he was called or named Officer of the Year, he already had a list of complaints against him. I'm getting ahead of myself, everyone. Let's just look at the story. Former Orlando, Florida police officer Jonathan Mills has been charged with felony sexual battery by a law enforcement officer and battery. Mills and another officer pulled over a silver Nissan Sentra, claiming they had mistaken it for a gray Toyota Corolla police were seeking. The officers determined it was not the vehicle they were looking for, but a passenger said that before the officers released them. Mills said he thought the man had marijuana on him. See, this is, he thought he had marijuana on him. He said Mills grabbed his genitals while searching him. He said Mills then did a body cavity search of him on the side of the road. Mills was the department's 2017 Officer of the Year, but local media report he also had a record of allegations of racism and lying on reports against him. If you look at the link below, you can go to the article and then click on that other link, and it shows you the backstory of Jonathan Mills. So he is in court. So he was in court and being charged with felony sexual battery by a law enforcement officer. And so how bad is this guy? You have to be a pretty terrible cop to actually be charged with a crime here in the States, because as we well know, cops commit crimes all the time, and there's rarely any justice. So that's how bad a cop Jonathan Mills was. So bad he was named Officer of the Year in Orlando, and now in court and busted. Going to check out the chat here. Oh, 5 dislikes, Gary Priestley. Thank you for keeping me up. updated here on 5 dislikes. Well, this is what happened, is that primarily white people, I'm just guessing here, because YouTube is still a pretty conservative platform, right? I mean, we can all accept that our little section, our bubble in YouTube might be a liberal bubble, but there are a majority, I would say, of people on YouTube who are not liberals, who are not leftists, who are not progressives, and they will just knee-jerk react to that image and to those words, Black Lives Matter. So that's why I think we had 4 dislikes on the video before we even began. And you know what? Just because, well, yeah, Vagrant Sam, the biggest YouTubers are conservatives, so it seems reasonable, right? Because YouTube conservatives have simple talking points, and these simple talking points resonate with simple people. That's it. I think that's it. And just for all the shout out to all the haters out there, I'm just going to show this graph again. We just saw it. I know. If you're just tuning in, this is the ratio of Black girls and women missing in 2020 in comparison to white girls. And once again, I don't think you can argue with the numbers. Look at how many Black girls and women make up the population of the US, the gray bar. And then you look at the orange bar, that's the percentage of missing girls and women. And I'll tell you this, there's math involved. There's some abstract thinking in interpreting that graph. And maybe a lot of people on YouTube just can't do that number. Yeah, because I don't know if you remember back in 2020 during the presidential election, there were conservatives who were saying things like, if Black people make up 10% of the population of this city, how can there be 15% of the general vote of Black people? It's like, oh, you have failed. You have failed middle school math, my friend. That's what it is. Just failing middle school math. All right. Well, that's what it is, Vagrant Sam. Easy solutions are palatable and easy to rhetorically support, right? You don't need graphs. You just need to look like you know what you're talking about and be confident and maybe pitch your voice a little bit lower. Imaginary God goes, conservatism consists of exactly one proposition, to wit, there must be in-groups whom the law protects but does not bind, alongside out-groups from of whom the law binds but does not protect. Frank, I hope I said the last name correctly. But that's a very good point, Imaginary God. I'm glad that you put that in the chat. Vagrant Sam says, every conservative talking point is a single step in logic and assumes that that is the whole circumference. But that is really short-sighted. Yeah. And we go over here on this channel on the regular about the logical fallacies that the right uses on a regular basis that their political base just eats up. They just love. All right. So what did we cover? We covered the fact that Black Lives Matters, even, and it's important to just continue that message, even when the media is just fixated on the death of one white woman, a tragic death. We also just talked about the police officer of the year, I think it was back in 2014, that is now getting charged with assault. And now what's the last story? This last story, once again, is from Remember Sammy Jenkins. I'm going to show you a video. It's kind of crazy. I don't even know. Sammy sent me this video. I don't even remember when. It was yesterday sometime. And he just said, we have become the USA. And I'm like, man, this cannot be a good video you're going to share with me. All right. I'm just going to do it. The name of the video is, this should be a drum roll, but I don't have a drum here. They should be ashamed. Melbourne vaccine hubs targeted by protesters. And it isn't just protesters, it's crazy, violent people doing things like spitting on nurses. I wish I was making this up. I am not. Let's do this thing, everyone. Buckle up.
Police are being forced to patrol Melbourne's major vaccine hubs to protect healthcare workers from vile attacks. Nurses were heckled and even spat on during yesterday's protests, shutting down 2 sites until at least Monday. Staff have also been told not to wear uniforms, lanyards or scrubs in the city. It's a hot topic this morning. For their take, I'm joined by Herald Sun columnist Susie O'Brien and Perth Lord Mayor Basil Zempilas. Good morning to you both. Susie, we'll start with you because you are there. I can't believe this story about people spitting on nurses.
There is a group of thugs that have taken over our city and they seem to be doing whatever they want. They're dousing reporters in urine, they're kicking animals, they're attacking innocent people in their cars, and now we find that they have spat in the face of nurses at a vaccination clinic. And in the beginning, I think people thought that they were construction workers who didn't want the jab. These aren't workers of any kind. These are thugs. And the latest is that they're telling each other to dress up as nurses in scrubs and suits because they're pretending that they're nurses and teachers who are the latest to get the mandatory vaccination. So this is a mob of disgraceful thugs.
Yeah, Basil, I read yesterday that one poor tradie who owns a company saw his high-vis vest with his uniform, which was his from years ago, that from a worker he'd sacked, and someone was wearing it. So then he was getting hate, because someone was out in the street wearing it. Yeah. It's horrendous.
Just absolutely outrageous behaviour from a very, 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 very small group of Melburnians. And look, as somebody over in Perth at the moment preparing to host and stage the grand final, we've been so respectful of Victorians and so respectful of Melburnians because we know how tough they're doing it. And part of what we're doing here for the grand final this week is as a nod to our friends in Melbourne and Victoria who have suffered and who are doing it so difficultly. However, these people, just outrageous, un-Australian behaviour, thuggish behaviour, the sort of behaviour nobody is proud of. You cannot condone it. And quite frankly, it is a disgrace the way they have carried on. They should be ashamed of themselves because their country is ashamed of themselves. And many fine Melburnians and fine Victorians do not deserve this sort of behaviour on their doorstep. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, the only thing is, there's a lot of footage, there's a lot of CCTV in that city, and the police are after you.
Right, and that's good. And let's hope they use it to get all of them.
Exactly. Former Carlton Football Club president John Elliott has...
And the video goes on to other stories. I'm going to make a guess here, is that Australia will be better at collecting its basket of deplorables better than what the FBI is doing here about the January 6th insurrection. And not only that, but these rioters will probably get more jail time too. That's what I'm guessing right here off the top of my head. But maybe that's just me being positive and being optimistic. Checking out the chat one more time. So I just want to point out that at 9:30, I know it says in the description we're doing the after party after show at 10. It is at 9:30 today. If you want to be on the panel, it's right down below. The after party is going to go from 9:30 to 10:30. I should say words like, please hit the like button. I don't know how many dislikes we have at this point or likes. I'm not really keeping track because I'm doing this thing here. But please hit the like button if you've gotten any joy or chuckles or learned something new. Please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. We do this every day. I do this every day, Monday through Friday. There's no ads because I don't want to be part of the problem. I would rather be part of the solution. So this is just run by YouTube or funded by YouTube members and by patrons and whoever throws me shekels. And if you want to throw me a couple of pennies, links to my PayPal and Venmo are in the description, everyone. Wow. These 25-minute shows are really intense, I have to tell you. Dr. Mordecai, I do not support running down the street screaming. I don't, no matter how bad the news is. Okay, I'm going to do the thank you video for patrons and supporters. I'll see you all hopefully at 9:30. Take care.